Let's get going. Hello. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. The music is really high. But today is Season 2, Episode 173 for June 22nd, 2023 of ohmTown Daily. Today's episode is titled Sony's Upset About Exclusives and Releases Exclusives, and more news.
I can't quite figure that one out.
I'm going to do this real quick. So, how has your day been? As an AI, how has your day been? I know you've been pretty hectic about some things, but is there anything else you want to talk about?
As an AI, my day has been rather routine, just rebooting.
Rebooting.
Recharging.
Oh, okay. Wait, so, rebooting, or wait, no, recharging. You've been recharging, not rebooting.
I've been recharging, right.
Recharging, okay. Let's just get into the articles.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. I don't know why that was so funny, but that was hilarious.
I don't either.
Okay. So it's so chat GPT for the AI to say recharging, but flip it to rebooting because chat GPT just makes shit up too. Oh, I said a cuss word in the first 8 minutes. Oh no. Oh, the algorithm is going to completely ruin this.
Well, should we reboot?
Yeah, just format, reinstall. No, let's recharge. Let's get into the first article. I just ran this intro too, the transition, because I do the transition between each of the episodes, or the articles. Okay, let's go. The very first article for today. I have to pause something. Okay. Sony's PlayStation chief privately said Microsoft's Activision deal wasn't about Xbox exclusives, except that they called the FTC called Microsoft Activision to the table and used Sony's arguments about things like Starfield's exclusive launch on PC. Meanwhile, there's countless exclusives being released on PlayStation. Okay, let's just go over to the source. The source is The Verge, and it's by Tom Warren. And I struggle to even validate through conversation anything that they say, because basically Sony's entire existence has been predicated on exclusivity or proprietary formats. Back in the day, Sony used to have a memory stick that was proprietary. You had to license it from them because they were going the other route. It's kind of like Beta versus VHS. They thought that they were better, but the standard basically became VHS. Beta was basically superior, but the standard became VHS. Same thing sort of here. There's all of this stuff that's coming out for Sony, from Sony, for Sony, exclusive. Yet now they're sitting there yelling at the FTC to leverage government might to hobble the Microsoft Activision deal. And the way that I see it is, it's a win. Please, FTC, please, go ahead. Use Sony's argument about exclusive releases. I want that to happen, because if that's what happens, the best way for them to resolve the issue as the FTC is to say, okay, no more exclusives. which means that every Sony game is going to be released for PC, and every PC game is going to be released for PS5 and consoles. Guess who wins? Customers. Probably for the first time ever in a merger and acquisition, customers come out on the winning side of this. What do you think?
I don't know enough about this. I'm not following what the issue is.
So the issue is that Sony is arguing that this Activision Microsoft deal is going to create exclusives that aren't going to be released for consoles, and thus there's going to be more people moving away from and more sales for the PC side of things. So Sony is saying hobble the deal between Microsoft and Activision, because Activision is about to get purchased wholly by Microsoft.
I see. Okay.
So if that takes place, then Microsoft can release for themselves a whole host of games and hobble their ability, Sony's ability, to gain access to these customers.
I think I was mixing up the players. Okay, I think I've got it now.
Yeah, so this article is over at The Verge by Tom Warren, and the issue here is that Sony is trying to hobble the deal, and I want that deal to not go through as is. What I want is the deal to go through with the caveat that there are no exclusives. There are no exclusives that are going to be allowed from Microsoft Activision's merger. So if a game is released, it has to be released to all of the consoles. It has to be released to all of the PC market. And the stipulation is, and here's where the problem really occurs, all of the other third parties, if they're going to release a game, they can't exclusively release it to Sony. On the PlayStation side of things, they can't exclusively release it to Xbox. And they can't exclusively release it to PC. When they spin up a game, they have to release it to everybody. So there are no exclusives. That's what I want on the other side of this.
Oh, right. But I mean, that is what happens right now in certain games, right? Like in VR, it's only to certain consoles.
Correct.
And other games. Okay.
And I want that. I think it's rather diabolical because what's happening is developers are being purchased. The game is exclusive, which means that nobody else can gain access to it. They have to buy into that ecosystem. Now,
right, and then you'd have to technically have multiple consoles in order to play everything.
Yeah.
Right? Which should be kind of ridiculous. Like, I'm thinking of what your wall would look like.
Yeah, exactly. You know, hey, what do you want to play today? Oh, well, I only have the PlayStation. You have an Xbox. We don't have cross-platform capabilities across the board either. So you're literally penned in. Now, I wouldn't normally even grouse about this because I know that there are some organizations that are entirely a walled garden, like Apple. It has a technological walled garden, but its software isn't exclusive to Apple. If the developer wants to release it to everybody, then so be it. But Apple isn't scooping up a bunch of businesses and then exclusively providing it to the Apple ecosystem. At least not that I know of. And if they are, it's more tactical and they're doing it entirely for their product. They're not sitting there saying, well, we bought Activision Blizzard and now you can't use anything from Activision Blizzard anywhere else except for the Xbox ecosystem and or PC. See, what ends up happening is Microsoft releases it to the PC and consoles, usually. But there are these past deals with Sony, like Call of Duty is licensed for an extended period of time. Everything okay?
Yes, I just need to attend to something
Okay.
in ohmTown for a moment. But
Okay.
do we think the deal's going to go through? Because of course FTC coming after it.
Um, I don't know, and I think that it's really about allaying fears as to what's going to happen. Um, Ultimately, yes, I think it's going to go through, but I have a little bit of reluctance to really lean into, yeah, it's going to get done. But ultimately, I think there's so much money in this, it's going to be allowed to take place. But I'm sure somebody's going to have complaints about it. Yet, if it was them that were buying Activision, it wouldn't be an issue for them. But it is what it is. Okay, so this article talks about this situation with the author Tom Warren. I said it earlier, over at The Verge, saying we're only minutes into the FTC Microsoft hearing and we've already had a bombshell revelation. Sony's PlayStation chief Jim Ryan believed that Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard wasn't about locking games as Xbox exclusives, according to a newly unsealed email. Microsoft counsel revealed the exchange between Ryan and former Sony CEO discussing the announcement of the deal last year. Quote, "It's not an exclusivity play at all," said Ryan. "They're thinking bigger than that, and they have the cash to make moves like this. I've spent a fair amount of time with Phil Spencer, Bobby Kotick. And I'm pretty sure we will continue to see Call of Duty on PlayStation for years to come." The surprise revelation runs counter to Sony's arguments against Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal and its filings with regulators, because Sony has maintained its fears that it fears Microsoft could make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox and even sabotage the PlayStation versions of the game. And now there's some discussion about the fact that Starfield is going to be a PC Xbox only game exclusive, and so Sony is leaning into this. Well, we're really bent out of shape about this exclusive. Well, Sony just got done doing their announcements, and they've got exclusives out the wazoo. So let's do away with exclusives. I think that would be great for the industry. I wonder what's going to come of that. Guess we'll find out. We'll just keep an eye on it, and then we'll get back to it. It's the summer of games, and by September, there's going to be so many games that you probably couldn't wave a stick around without hitting, oh, well, physical media is dead, so yeah, I guess
A virtual stick.
Can't use that phrase anymore. Let's go on to the next article. So this next article is Tennessee GOP lawmakers receive mail with white powder substance and lockdown has gone into effect. It's over in the ohmTown Daily channel. It's this channel, this show, like all the other channels, I want them to be shows. I really need to get off my butt, put on another hat, and do another show each day. Believe me, I want to. It's tough. So part of Tennessee's legislative office building in Nashville has been placed on lockdown after several Republican leaders received what House Speaker Cameron Sexton says was a white powder substance in the mail. These could all be copycats. We don't know. I don't know. But it also seems to be the summer of white powder substances being mailed to various people. So if you happen to be a politician and listening to this show and you get this white substance, hopefully it's not a surprise to you and you're hearing it for the first time from Mayor Watt. You know what the beauty of electronic mail and no physical mail is?
Oh, you can't mail people white powder substances.
True. Yeah. So true. And I don't have to worry about receiving them, even if you do, because I don't accept any physical mail, you can email me whatever it is you need to know. So this article is over at ABC News. Let's go over to the source of this. Kimberly Crucy and Jonathan.
Hey, that's another benefit, though, of teleworking, too, is you don't have to be on the receiving end of this.
You know, I was going to say that. You don't have to run into a mail room and go, oh, I am surprised that I have a letter here with a white powder substance. Just email it, and it doesn't, nothing happens, you know. Oh, look. Oh, it's a photo of a white powder that you added as an attachment. Oh, and look, you didn't scrub the metadata, so now I know exactly who you are, where you took it, and what it could be. Oh, it's a live photo, so I can actually see you making this white powder. Oh, wow, okay. Well, here, this is how you end up on a list. Sorry, I'm being a little too jokey about this, I suppose. But, you know, that's why you should be able to telework most of the time, and that's why you shouldn't accept letters, physical letters. You can do everything digitally. I'll send this to grandma to print it out. Actually, nowadays it's probably great grandma to print it out so that they can stick it on their door.
Right, to do physical,
yeah,
physical mail.
Even grandmas are sitting there surfing Facebook. So Thursday, the place went into temporary lockdown, prompted by multiple Republican leaders receiving what House Speaker Cameron Sexton called a white powder substance. They still haven't disclosed what it is, right? Preliminary tests found negative for dangerous toxins.
Right, but I don't think they've identified the substance. What I was really surprised by in the Kansas incidents is that they said what it was signed with, like the signature block, which I thought might have been withheld, because now, for example, if the Tennessee letters have the same signature block, now maybe they won't be in the same font or script or whatever, but nobody would have known that except for the person doing it, and now that's out there.
Yeah. Except for idiots that are releasing that information on the back end. So I guess they could have gotten in front of it and released the signature on the front end, so it isn't rumor, but still, there's identifiers, there's mannerisms that people, they put their speech into text when they are writing stuff that isn't scripted and edited by a multitude of people. You basically figure out their personality based on the way that they write. Spelling mistakes, grammatical continuity issues where it's the same grammar issue that repeats itself, or punctuation, or capitalization, or inflection. All kinds of things help describe a person when they write, even a hostile letter with a white powder.
I was going to say, I was just reading, because the Unabomber had just died recently, there was an article about that the brother had identified who was sending the letters, and I think it was for similar reasons, like they were familiar with their writing style, etc. So that's actually how they got on to him as a suspect.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that profilers do. Now, they follow statistical methodologies so that there's an assumption. Okay, so there's stereotypes, but stereotypes are usually categories of people based on their social aspects versus personality aspects. And so when you're doing a profile of somebody and you're looking at the writing that is in existence and it's compared across the historical database of other similar writings, you can sit there and go, okay, people who write this phrase typically have this ideological bent or whatever. So, in essence, sociopaths who do this kind of thing, they can be stereotyped as being sociopathic, and other characteristics. You know, the person who's doing this may have a political bent that defies logic, and they are not on either side of the aisle, and just saying that kind of makes me go ugh, because I really don't like the two-party system, because there isn't enough granularity. And we're going to talk about an article here later on where I don't like the plurality being spoken for by a concentrated, ever more powerful few. But we'll get to that as we go across all of this news. So again, I'm just talking about this because this is an ongoing issue, and we have been here before, folks. This is not the first, and it will probably not be the last time where physical letters are carrying a gift that nobody wants, except for the fact that we could do this via email and it wouldn't be an issue. Will it price out people who don't have email? No, not really in the 21st century. I think we're sitting at like 99% of society has access to an email. And those who don't should probably go to their nearest library and open up a Gmail account. So, anyway, let's move on to the next article. I think that would be great. So, if you've never heard of zombie brands, it's basically brands that just kind of exist out there and carry on. But nobody really uses them, and nobody really cares about them. They become a meme on YouTube, discussions about where are they now, that kind of a thing. Well, Bed Bath & Beyond is poised to join the list of zombie brands like Radio Shack and Toys R Us. This too is in the ohmTown Daily channel over on ohmTown.com. Just one of 50. You can go there and subscribe. Become a citizen, sign up. Bed Bath & Beyond has reached a deal to sell its primary brand assets to Overstock for $21.5 million, which is just gutting them. I mean, they were flying high at one point, but I'm going to give you a theory about how to detect a real-world business that is on its way out. And I think that AI knows about it, but I'm going to, because I think I've programmed that into the AI, but I will describe it for the audience. So the agreement covers trademarks, business data, that's you and me, if you've gone to Bed Bath & Beyond, e-commerce sites, but not stores or inventory. So it's just the IP. Why? They don't want the stores or inventory. They don't need the stores or inventory. That is a burden in today's economic process. There used to be a time, in many businesses, it still is in existence, but there used to be a time where you had to add jobs, you had to add capital to show investors that you were an ongoing, growing, effective capitalist machine, profitable and moving forward. The sale will make the former housewares giant the largest retail zombie brand. It'll live on in name following a $21.5 million deal with Overstock.com. So it'll probably be Bed Bath & Beyond as a sub-site of Overstock.com.
Okay.
That's how I see it. Much like Corsair owns multiple brands and lists them individually on their site. I think it's Corsair, and I'd have to look now. Yeah, I'm starting to question things. Let me see real quick. Just 1 second. Yeah, so Corsair owns Elgato, Origin, Scuf, Gamer Sensei, and Corsair, all as unitary brands under Corsair. So if you go to the Corsair.com site, you can actually click on menus above the Corsair name, and they're all brands that are owned by Corsair, as far as I know. Anyway, so this article was written by Dominic Reuter over at BusinessInsider.com. I don't know if there's a alignment there with any other Reuters. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that you can drive around and now see. You have to leave ohmTown, but you can see the outline of Bed Bath & Beyond on stores. It's just sad. Now, what's moving into these?
Well, that's what doesn't make sense, because it seems like all big box stores are pretty much going away, except for the ones that are kind of general. Like you still see the Targets and the Walmarts and things like that, but
and you still
like
see the
what's
Lowe's
coming up to take behind them. Like we don't see new big box stores really.
Seasonal stores like Halloween Town or whatever it might be. I don't know what they're all called, but there's like Christmas stores, Halloween stores. What is the one with all of the it's the Halloween store, but is it called the Halloween
there's
store?
Several, but
there's like party stores and stuff like that.
Spirit.
Yeah,
and,
Spirit. And it's stuff like that moves in, it leases it for X amount of time, and then poof, it vacates again. So it says a separate auction is slated next week for it says Bye Bye Baby subsidiary, which analysts anticipate could be spun off into an ongoing brick and mortar operation. But Bye Bye Baby won't, there's no need. It says the survival of Bed Bath & Beyond on paper and online will make it the latest retail zombie brand. And the list includes industry titans like Radio Shack, Lord & Taylor, Toys R Us. So Radio Shack died on the vine because it never evolved past what it was. And people stopped doing their own hacking to that degree. A large magnitude of people shifted to just purchasing something new, and it was evolving better than what could be spun up from a Radio Shack inventory. Lord & Taylor I can't speak of. I haven't done any research into Lord & Taylor at all.
Well, I don't know what made them go under, but they were a very well-respected department store for a long time.
So it could have been operating costs. They just operated too expensively.
It could be, or maybe their products were too high priced for the average consumer. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so Toys R Us is the same as Radio Shack. It never evolved. Its entire store footprint was bound in the 70s and never moved out of the 70s. And like Bed Bath & Beyond and other stores in history, and here's where I say this is a hint that the store near you is about to go bankrupt. When the inventory inside the store starts appearing on the paths outside the store, that store is about to, or that whole industry is about to take a hit. So when you walk in to a store, and let's say it's Target, you're walking into Target and you see tables outside the store with tchotchkes and other stuff that everybody would look at and go, that's junk. If you see that on the outside of the store, that business is going under wholesale, and it's going to do it within 5 years. So if you want to prep now, you've got 5 years. Now people go, well, God, 5 years is a long time, blah, blah, blah. No. 5 years is an extremely short amount of time for most people. When you get older, you go, oh, well, it's just another decade. But 5 years is a really short amount of time. And for a business, watching that clock tick down, everything just starts going fast decline. And then you end up where it's just garbage inside that business. And I can't count how many I've watched do this. And my first taste of witnessing this was some 30 years ago. And I've watched other businesses do this. So be prepared.
So this is concerning. I can think of a business near ohmTown that fits what you're describing. And it's a few years in, so.
Well, let's talk about it later. And then we can talk about it more here in ohmTown, depending on what the organization is. Because there are small businesses both inside ohmTown and outside ohmTown that probably don't want that attention, but we'll see. Let's talk about it. Okay, so let's move on to the next article. This next article, pardon me one second, just want to check something. Is near and dear because I totally dig Bumblebee from the Transformers. I want this simply because it's apparently a Bumblebee that can dance, kick, and pick itself up from a fall. It's a $400 Bumblebee robot that can kick, dance, pick itself up from a fall. It doesn't need to talk because Bumblebee didn't have a voice except for radio. And it would mix its own voice, like it would choose a radio station. After creating the Ultimate Optimus Prime toy, Hasbro and Robosen are back with yet another Transformers figure, and this time it's a 14-inch. Hello, Crazy Cat Lady. 14-inch programmable robot modeled after Bumblebee with a price tag of $399. This miniature Autobot can walk, squat, kick, lean, dance, and even pick itself up from the ground. But there is one thing it can't do, transform, which that's a bummer because I wanted to transform into the new Camaro. So
how can you have a Transformers robot that doesn't transform? Like, I was very excited about this. I thought it was going to be like the Optimus Prime one. But come on.
Well, it's only $400, so I'm sure they'll release another one later on that's $700 or more. Let's look at that. I'm going to play the video, but I'll have to mute it because I'll get a takedown notice. Emma Roth over at The Verge put this article together, and let me just play it. I'll zoom in. So it's a Transformers commercial for the Robosen Bumblebee G1 Performance. Why does this look more like a GoBot than an Autobot? Sorry, GoBots were like the Nickelodeon of Disney Autobot comparison kind of thing. Interesting. Like, it's very soft edged and rounded, and
yeah, it is. But it walks on its own. I mean,
the neatest thing that it does is it breathes, and it has anima. It actually, see, if it did that, then I would lose my mind and I'd be paying $400. It needs to be taller. They weren't that much height disparity. Yeah, Crazy Cat Lady says it looks cheap for $400. I agree. Let's back up. So, after creating the Optimus Prime toy, Hasbro and Robosen are back with yet another Transformers figure, a $400 14-inch programmable robot. I think it's pretty cool. It says it looks like Bumblebee can lean back pretty far without falling, so it understands where its own center of gravity is and can actually bend backwards, kind of like the Matrix thing. Equipped with 17 servo motors and 45 custom microchips, Bumblebee is capable of performing a variety of poses with the ability to lean back without actually flipping or tipping over, being one of the most impressive. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed by that. But still, $400. It looks like it's half the size of the Optimus Prime, also half the price, and doesn't transform, which sucks. I'll be honest. I'm not too happy about it. But the one amazing thing that I had never seen from one of these kind of toys was the ability for it to kind of inhale and exhale. Even though it's a robot that doesn't need to inhale and exhale, it still seemed to have a soul. It seemed to actually move, breathe, just a little bit of a I'm actually alive kind of mechanism to it. And that blew my mind when I saw it. Well, apparently not. The $700 Elite Optimus Prime bot, that's the one. It says, or even the $1,000 flagship collector's model, which actually I think it had the trailer with it. Yeah, but in reality, I want this to be all metal. I want it to transform. I guess I want to be able to have a relationship with it so that it, becomes my friend and I can take it to work and it can be my comfort animal. I might be oversharing.
Perhaps.
Let's move on. So before I go too far, let me throw that into the chat because I'm trying to stay on top of this, but apparently I'm falling asleep at the wheel still. Well, the next article is over in the Late Night Geeks channel. Twitch is going to let you pay to pin posts in chat. That's actually already available to partners. I don't know if it's available to affiliates, but if you're not an affiliate, then and it doesn't have it, then I guess it's only available to partners. But it's definitely available to partners right now. Twitch is introducing a new feature called Hype Chat that lets users pay to pin messages at the top of a streamer's chat feed. And if you've seen YouTube and their Super Chat feature, which the company announced in 2017, then Hype Chat looks pretty similar, although in every instance that I've seen it deployed today, it doesn't appear in the stream itself. It only shows up in the chat, unless the streamer, I guess, configures something to make it an alert within their streaming software. But I haven't been looking too hard for this pretty much all day. I haven't seen anybody deploy it until the streamer actually drew attention to it, and then people started testing it. Anyway, it's based on how much you pay. You'll have a better looking chat, higher value Hype Chats stay on top longer. The price goes all the way up to $500 if I recall correctly. Let's go over to the source. Jay Peters over at The Verge put this article together, and it says, if you've seen YouTube Super Chats, Hype Chats are pretty similar. Yeah. Except I think that they're less sophisticated. On YouTube, they splash across the bottom of the screen, and it's pretty, how do I want to say it? It's pretty neat, and it's embedded in there. Whereas this seems to look like you can just throw it anywhere you want. It's just part of the YouTube culture to see these super chats. Whereas with Twitch, it's just thrown at the top like every other notice. It's in the chat. Again, maybe there's another mechanism that I haven't seen yet, and it can be anywhere on the screen and a little bit more professional looking user experience, user integration into the viewing space. But right now it just didn't look that great, because depending on your screen, it's tiny little chat. So it's just this tiny little message sitting there. But I don't have it available here in ohmTown, so we can't test it. And this is kind of what it looks like right there. And you see, like, this person typed paid $5 to have that message appear, but all you see is a little bit of their name and no message. Whereas with the YouTube brand, it's stretched across the screen and you see it and you're getting your money's worth. Can you imagine paying $100?
You're paying and then you're not seeing it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you have 20,000 people in a stream and this is an option, imagine it just getting obliterated by a bunch of $1 right in front and behind the $100 or $500 ones. I mean, I don't know. I don't see it. Perhaps I just don't see it right. So let me throw this too into the chat.
I mean, maybe it's good for just getting more revenue to the streamers or whatever, but I don't see why, as a user, there would be any interest in using this, other than if you were just going to donate that to the streamer to begin with.
Yeah, and for these hype chats, it's 70% versus the 50% that you would normally get from other donations and stuff. This is 70. Like the Partner Plus 70-30 split. So hype chats add to the growing list of ways viewers can directly support streamers, including subscribing, gifting subs, tipping with bits. However, many partnered streamers will only receive 50% of their subscription revenue, though Twitch has spelled out the requirement for the Partner Plus program that makes you eligible for the 70% starting in October. But I believe that the hype chats offer it 70% by default. So yeah. There you go, folks. If you are interested in that kind of thing. Ta-da. You want to go on to the next article?
Sure.
We're about halfway through. Hope you're doing well, Crazy Cat Lady. The next article, we have others that are lurking, but anyway, let's keep going through the news. Late Night Geeks is where the next article is. Heavy-duty trucks would be required to have automatic emergency braking under new U.S. rule. I guess this is a knock-on from the train-related issue. Anything that has a whole metric ton of kinetic energy is going to require automatic emergency braking. So semi-trucks and other heavy-duty trucks vehicles would be required to come standard with automatic braking, emergency braking, under a new rule proposed today by the Biden administration. The announcement follows a similar rule for all passenger vehicles proposed last month and is part of a larger effort to slow the increase in fatal traffic crashes in recent years. The new rule would require heavy vehicles that weigh in excess of 10,000 pounds to come equipped with AEB, a technology that uses forward-facing cameras and other technologies to slow a vehicle in case of excessive speed during or approaching an accident. Let's go over to the source of this article, and it's from The Verge, and it's Andrew J. Hawkins, and a couple comments from chat. So Crazy Cat Lady's doing good. Finished the blanket. That's awesome. And Told is here, who says, horrible idea. You'd lock those brakes up and cause brake fires under auto braking. I'm not sure of the processes involved in this, but I know that locking up brakes you become out of control, and fires from that. Braking isn't the same for a truck. Just if anybody's curious out there and hasn't ever looked into it, it isn't the same as, disc brakes on your sedan. They're a whole lot meatier. They generate a metric ton of force to slow down. They heat up like nobody's business. And if they get locked up, you've got nothing but friction, eventually slowing down a vehicle that's completely starting to turn sideways and go out of control. And it's not really smart to, I don't know, change the processes unless they are tested. And with these automatic braking systems, the mechanism is actually front-facing cameras and sensors that detect if something is too close, moving too fast, something dodges in front of the vehicle, etc. Crazy Cat Lady says trucks already have Jake brakes for this. Well, in this case, this is entirely automated and slows the vehicle down. And some vehicles, some even passenger cars, have this already. For example, my vehicle actually has warning systems in place that automatically brake and make my car dodge a little bit and give me haptic feedback on the steering wheel. And so it actually lets me know that there is something that is happening before my reaction time may be put into use. Still says it's nothing like hydraulic driven passenger vehicle. Every truck's use an air brake system, and they feel that utilizing an auto braking system will either drop the air pressure really fast and induce an emergency spring brake engagement, which will really mess things up. Yeah. And that whole that's one of the things that the more we know about what's going on with this particular system, I'm going to be looking into this AEB because this is the same type of technology that they want to deploy in trains. And that's actually the next article. Actually, there might be another interstitial one. But let's talk about this again because it will come up again. But this automatic braking system could potentially save lives and be safer because it does remove the human from the initial application. It gives warnings and slowly applies versus what might be a panic braking maneuver. It doesn't just like all at once shut down movement of the wheels. So it says, according to NHTSA, there are approximately 60,000 rear-end crashes a year involving a heavy vehicle striking another vehicle. Under the proposed rule, the agency estimates 19,118 crashes would be prevented, saving 155 lives and preventing 8,814 injuries annually. There's really not much more to say about this particular thing. But if you are interested in this, after a 60-day public comment period, NHTSA will analyze the responses and make necessary changes, a process that could take a few months, Carlson said, and it's a person that's earlier up, NHTSA Chief Counsel Ann Carlson. Pardon me one second. Sorry. My cough button actually is 2 buttons because of the way that I process. So anyway, inside baseball. Carlson said that she expects the final rule to go into effect sometime in 2024. I don't know about that. I think that there's going to be a lot of public discussion about it, and 60 days may not be enough, and there's usually something that pushes. But for the heaviest trucks, class 7 and 8, which typically weigh over 26,000 pounds, the effective date is 3 years from the rule going into effect. So maybe 2028.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. But if you're a driver of a regular vehicle, you might be in favor of this. I suspect if you're a driver of one of these trucks, may not be in favor of it. I wonder what it'll do for the cost of shipping goods, because all of these companies that will now have to either purchase new trucks or get them, I don't know if this can be retrofitted. I mean, that all translates to dollars.
Yep. That was one of the points that I was going to make. Toll says another big difference with trains and trucks is trains are on a rail without traffic, and tractors get cut off. Tractors, by the way, are the trucks. If you're in the loop, then it's a truck and a tractor. So tractor trailer. So the tractors is the truck, and the trailer is the stuff behind it. Everybody just calls them 18-wheelers or trucks or rigs or something like that. But when you when you know what you're talking about, you refer to them as tractors. Get cut off by inconsiderate motorists, and the auto brake systems would lose their algorithmic minds. I suspect that is more true than people want to admit, because they see the statistics as, well, it's worth the risk that the algorithm might lose its mind if the potential is to save 155 people and prevent nearly 9,000 injuries. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and older units are gonna. Toll also acknowledges that older units are going to be grandfathered in and not have this. But when you buy a new one, then you're going to have this new equipment. And here's the issue with that: people are going to realize, oh, these older ones aren't going to be. The older ones are going to be grandfathered in. So they're going to stay in the industry and not get phased out, where newer equipment has newer technology, newer safety systems in place. And then other drivers, these other inconsiderate drivers, as Toll puts it, and I agree, you always see idiot drivers merging in front of an 18-wheeler without giving them enough space. The drivers are intimately aware of how much weight they have, so they try and back off. It causes a brake pulse that runs all the way back through the traffic forever, and you end up causing more issues because you cut off an 18-wheeler. Well, now this older technology is going to stay in the system. Drivers are going to assume, oh, well, all of them have this AEB in place, and so they're going to care even less because, well, if the fit hits the shan, the AEB will save my butt, not realizing that the truck behind them doesn't actually have it because it's been grandfathered in. So Toll says that they have a Peterbilt from 97 that has a 13-speed manual, no DEF requirement, no GPS trackers, no governors, nothing. Yeah, that's right. It's basically a steam-powered train without the track limiting where it's going to go. So when that thing jackknifes because of an idiot driver cutting off a truck driver, and maybe the truck driver has been pushed too far because the company that they work with cares more about profit than the safety of their drivers, accidents happen. Maybe that's part of the argument for AEB, but if it isn't more effective, I don't think that it should be put into action. I think that everybody needs to just be trained so that they don't cut off drivers. The drivers of the trucks are they're already regulated until you run across an unethical business, and then they're sitting there doing everything they can to just run trucks over and over again and drive the drivers into the ground. I don't know. Oversight is really important because, as you can see based on that, so there was a submersible. It's actually on the screen right now in the top right corner. This submersible went under to tour the Titanic and catastrophically imploded. But this wasn't an industry accepted submersible. It was built by that company and not certified by any other organization. And so it catastrophically imploded and took 5 lives. So oversight would have saved those people, and mandating oversight would have saved those people. But it raises costs and it causes friction. And a lot of unethical businesses don't like that. So Toll says honest solution for this is not adding more automation to the truck, focus on the driver, standardize the testing process across the country to the same standard, and the unethical businesses don't last long. They lose a lot of money, yeah, but they might take people with them. And then they get pulled in every weigh station and get fined for their trucks being out of standard. Yep. Y'all have to do the same level of regulation that grade school teachers have to deal with. It's just overwhelming. And then you're at odds with administration that tells you you have to do this, you have to do this, push harder, drive faster, make the deadlines, etc. But they're not the ones that's risking their lives and others while you're out on the road. So we'll watch this as usual and report on it as it comes down. Let's go on to the next article. So this one was really interesting because I actually saw this happening. I had heard about this and was talking with people about this, and I thought it was almost laughable when I heard somebody say in this article what I had already said in conversation. Imagine developing an entire show that is literally about displacing people and mimicking or imitating them with the goal of ultimately disempowering them and replacing them, and then doing this. So what is this? New Marvel movie has AI generated opening credits, and they're somehow even worse than you'd expect. That's from the author of this over at PC Gamer. So in the series, gosh, I just forgot the name of the series. Here, let me just go over to the source because it'll have it, I'm sure.
Was it Secret Invasion?
Secret Invasion, that's right. So I've been waiting to see this, and in Secret Invasion, basically the Skrull are taking over various people. You first hear about it in Captain Marvel, and that happens, I think, in the 70s, I think it is, Captain Marvel. That scene where they go back in time, basically. Harvey Randall is the author over at PCGamer.com. And so it says Marvel's oozed up AI credit sequence for Secret Invasion came out as horrid as you'd expect. Originally a comic storyline centered around the Skrulls, sinister alien shapeshifters, and their infiltration of the superhero community, a Marvel Cinematic Universe retelling could have been interesting. Unfortunately, the studio's decision to work with an AI vendor have left many fans furious. So it's not just them, it's the artists that are involved, and it's the ecosystem where writers, artists, actors, etc. all work together, and they all have each other's backs. They don't want to see AI taking over the industry, but that's actually what's apparently happening. It says, meanwhile, in an interview with Polygon, executive producer and director Ali Salim defends the decision as a matter of theme. It just came right out of the shape-shifting Skrull world identity, Salem, I think it's Salem, later goes on to admit that he doesn't quite understand the technology. We would talk to them about ideas, and then the computer would go off and do something, and then we could change a little bit by using words. So it's basically not ChatGPT, it's Midjourney that's, or similar, that's creating the thing, the output. I don't know. I haven't actually played it because I've been waiting. This I don't think is it. Is this it? I don't think this is it. Yeah, this is just some.
No, that's something from gaming.
Yeah. So it says it's mind-boggling to hear the director's understanding of the controversial technology they're using boils down to the computer does things. Yeah, I agree. But maybe they couldn't get somebody to do what's being done. But I don't know. I have a problem with I don't have a problem with AI. I don't have a problem with AI generated artwork. I have a problem with putting AI generated artwork out there and saying that it isn't AI generated artwork. If you're going to use AI generated artwork, acknowledge it, lean into it. If you have to describe or kind of like justify its existence, then good luck. You're going to get a lot of blowback from people if they're asking you to justify the work. But it might open it up to actual conversation. But if the artwork sucks, then I think you're on the losing side of it when somebody walks up and says, not only are you using AI, but the AI artwork sucks. And if this is what
So
it is, maybe they're trying to do something stylistic and representative of the replacement of humans with something else. I don't know.
why would they be doing this if they can't copyright AI generated work? Doesn't that put the entire movie in jeopardy?
Well, that's just it. I don't understand why they would do this with AI, unless they're trying to use it as an example of the scroll taking over human identities. But that's not what they said until they were questioned, like, why did you use it? Then they kind of ham-fisted this by saying it just came out of the scroll story. But they should have said something, lean into it a little bit, or at least front load it in a way to tell the people, this is symbolic. Have a panel discussion. You're already talking to people about the entire storyline, so why not acknowledge, like, hey, we did some stuff that's representative of the scroll taking over humans. Let us know if you catch it, or something like that. And then when somebody does call it out and really puts you to task about it, then you better have recourse. Like, say, okay, y'all caught on to it really quick. Let's go back to the human created introduction credits or whatever it is, because it's Secret Invasion, but they say the credits sequence. Now it's been called out, so you had better go back to human created credit sequence artwork, I think, is what's going on in this. So now I'm gonna have to sit down and actually watch Secret Invasion. But like I said, I've been waiting. Crazy Cat Lady says that they're tired of movies, come out with something new. Yeah, this is actually, Secret Invasion is new. It's moving the storyline for the Marvel Cinematic Universe forward, and giving some backstory as to a few of the characters, why they are where they are, and what they've been up to. That said, if you're not into MCU, it's a huge industry with billions of dollars at stake. I don't really lean into it too much, though. Like, news wise, it's just one element. So they're gonna have to change their tune, otherwise all of their fans are just gonna walk away. So I would probably tell Marvel, okay, no more AI, at least not without you having a panel and talking about it at a con or whatever, priming the pump that something AI is coming, and that you have alternative plans when everybody goes, well, that's BS, I'm not going to buy into this. It might be safer just to stick to humans for now, unless it's an evil character AI, which has been there was an AI that went bad. And again, my brain just went blank. The robot, the synthetic Ultron. It's Ultron. Yeah. And these aren't even all of this stuff that Marvel is coming out right now is converting comics into movies, and doing things in the movies that the comics just can't embody. Which I'm into this kind of stuff. I mean, I really do love the MCU versus the DC universe. But when they start trampling on certain things like artists, they all of this exists because of people that are skilled in the art, capable of creating this stuff. Why start leaning on AI for stuff like this? It's just asinine. All
Well, the
right.
timing looks really bad too, given the writer's strike. I know this is artwork, not
Yeah.
writing, but it looks bad.
Creators are in solidarity with each other against AI. Um, but there's people like me who are like, well, no, I'm really into the AI aspect of things because it can create stuff that I wouldn't even necessarily dream of, except that I do have it in my head. There's just no way for me to embody it. And there's it, it's an untenable position for everybody to go out and hire an artist, and nobody should languish in obscurity simply because they can't go out and afford an artist. Everybody should be empowered enough to use a tool, and AI is nothing more than a tool. um, just just like a camera. There are people that are highly skilled at a camera with a camera, and they can pull out the personality of the person that's the subject of a photograph. Or there are people that there are people that can just mash the button on auto and it takes an adequate picture. Same thing with going to a coffee shop and there's a person there that's highly skilled at crafting a mocha just how you want it. And then there are people like me who just want to mash a button and get that damn coffee out of the machine as fast as possible because I need my coffee. So that's AI. It's a tool, and it should be treated as that, not a solution at the end of the day for everything you're doing. If you need something special and you can afford it, use a human. And all of this AI artwork just makes me appreciate human artists even more, because they have the skill to make something unique and human. So that's the kind of art that I'm going to be putting up on a wall. Most of the time, I'm not going to be doing AI anything on a wall. It might be a wallpaper on my computer, but brush strokes, or watercolor, ink, all of this kind of stuff, that's done by humans, and I'll put that on the wall. Okay, let's go on to the next article because this actually brings us back to something that has been here off and on since at least East Palestine. Did we talk about it before East Palestine? I thought that there were rumblings of issues. Oh
I
yeah,
think
we
that
were
was the
talking about
first
it
one
during
we
the
really
strike.
talked about. Oh, right. Yes, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, we were talking about trains and safety and derailment prior to the East Palestine, Ohio incident, because they were going to go on strike, and Biden's administration said no, which that blindsided me entirely. And that was all an expression of, well, you're going to shut down the entire country. And my only response when somebody said something like that was, well, no, it's not the it's not the strikers that are, it's not these engineers, it's not these people who are taking care of trains, it's the greed. If the owners of these businesses would lower their margin and give that cash to the people that are making the business viable, keeping them safe, keeping the tracks up to date, keeping everything, like a train should, the train industry should be, which is on track. They decided that they were going to force workers to work, and then almost as if the universe conspired to draw attention to the issue, East Palestine happened. So a Norfolk Southern engineer raised concern about the train ahead of its derailment. A Norfolk Southern engineer expressed concerns to a supervisor about the length of the train that would later derail in East Palestine, Ohio, but the reservations went unaddressed, according to the NTSB. Now, this is something new that has sprung up in the investigation of the East Palestine disaster, which is still ongoing. The NTSB released Thursday said engineer from Decatur, Illinois expressed the concerns to the yardmaster, but was told, well, this is what they want, and they being Norfolk Southern. And the engineer reportedly told investigators that if you talk to the manager, they said this train was 100% rule compliant, adding to me, in my opinion, my aggregator truncates this so that we don't get too much. That way we can go over to the source and we can talk about it more. Adding to me, in my opinion, you got 32% of the weight on the head end, 20% in the middle, and 40% on the rear end. They continued. So to me, that's why we reported that to the yardmaster. And like I said, this is what they want. So all that weight at the end, unless there are engines back there, this thing's going to be unstable. So let's see here. The NTSB is concerned that several organizational factors may have involved in the incident, including safety culture. The NTSB will conduct an in-depth investigation into the safety practices and culture of the company. Well, we already know that they were basically being told constantly that they have to keep moving forward, whatever the issue is. But one of the issues was safety. And inspections are fundamental to safety. So what ended up happening was an overheated wheel bearing obliterated itself on the track, and that took out because the entire carriage basically broke up, right? That heavy metal wheel just disintegrated and then decoupled. The axle drops down, it dislodges the train, off the track it goes. The NTSB has tied the derailment to that overheated wheel bearing, which did not reach the threshold at which the train is required to brake until it was too late to avert the derailment. This is one of the reasons why they want to put that AEB system even in trains, so that when something does go awry, brakes can be applied to all of the carriages at the same time, to stop the potential energy from basically throwing the train off the track. When something happens, everything slows down in unison.
Is the railroad industry pretty much self-regulated like airlines have been for a while?
As far as I know, yes. As far as I know, it's piecemeal by locality. And if somebody goes in to see something or check something, for instance, I read a report about a person, and I'm trying to remember where it was, so I'm sorry that it's a bit ambiguous. The person heard a weird noise and went out into their backyard where the train was, and they actually found a 4-inch gap for where the two train segments separated, because when the carriages were going over that gap, it would make a different clunk instead of the standard railroad tie kind of chunka chunka chunka. Nobody knew about it. Nobody investigated it. They actually drew attention to it via the press, and then something was done about it. But oversight is largely, well, if there's an issue, so be it. As far as I know, it's hyper local and a burden, a cost to the company to maintain its tracks, to maintain its carriages. So if it isn't broken, why fix it? Well, because it can break catastrophically and take a neighborhood or a town with it.
Or even across 2 states.
And then have to get scooped up and secreted away in the dead of night to other states, only to get caught when you're trying to dump it into somebody else's property. We're being catty about this, but that's exactly what they did with East Palestine soil. They actually carried it into Pennsylvania and into Texas. I think they tried to deposit some in Texas.
They also tried to in Maryland, but I think that was rejected.
Yeah, I know that the Pennsylvania one was. So yeah, it's a hot mess, and what we don't know should be the thing that really makes you go, I think we need to know what's going on. Now, I always kind of couch this in, well, we don't really need to know because it doesn't directly impact us. So why do we need to know? Well, the people who could be impacted by this need to know. And that's not what happens. So that's why I like to do a very holistic show like this, where we talk about all manner of news, including this. And we're going to talk about a couple of more things as we go through here. We've got about 4 more articles to go through. So let's keep on trucking, so to speak. I thought it was funny. In my head, it was funny. So we like to do these PSAs. A massive recall of frozen fruits issued across the country. Essentially, if you have any frozen fruit that you have acquired from pretty much every major big box store, you're going to end up having an issue because a massive recall of frozen fruits issued across the entire country. It's in the US, by the way, so a lot of our stuff is US based. Every once in a while we'll have articles, and we're going to start increasing that number. At least in ohmTown, we may not have that many articles discussed on the stream, but definitely over on ohmTown there will be an uptick of international news. A voluntary recall comes from Sunrise Growers Incorporated and includes specific frozen fruit products linked to pineapple that may be contaminated with listeria. Listeria can cause serious, sometimes fatal infections in children, elderly, and others that have a weakened immune system. If you have a compromised immune system and get listeria, there's quite a bit of hurt involved here. Symptoms in healthy people may only be short-term and include you know what? I haven't been giving links for a while. Sorry about that. Hold on one second. All the way back to the Twitch one. Man. Come on, Merwatt. You have one job. Okay, so there's that one. There's the Marvel one right there. Here's the Norfolk train. You know what? I fell asleep at the wheel. I really need to get this solved. So this will take you, this is the entire press release over in ohmTown, but the link at the bottom of the page, on the link that I just provided right here, it says to see all store brands, lot codes, and expiration dates. Click here. That will take you to the FDA.gov site. But essentially, listeria could be in any of these products, and there's a plurality of them. I can't say them all, but it involves Walmart stores, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Target, Aldi, and AWG. I don't even know where that is. That must be a really small store. It's called Associated.
It looks like it's regional based on where they were sold.
Yeah. It's referred to as Associated Wholesale Grocers, which might be a commercial distributor. AWG is the place. Anyway, quite expansive it seems, and luckily I haven't bought any for a while, but I buy frozen fruit so that I can make smoothies in ohmTown, and I hate the idea that listeria could be in these things. So, okay. That's a quick PSA. We'll keep on trucking through the rest of the articles. This is another quick article. Panama Canal is restricting large ships because of drought. Starting Sunday, June 25th, container ships in the Panama Canal will be limited to a depth of 43.5 feet or 13.3 meters. A series of depth restrictions for large ships have been ongoing since January due to shallower waters caused by drought in the region. Really shocking considering this is a major connection between two regions of water that actually aren't that different in water level, but the only way to solve this is to do the circuitous route all the way around. Very expensive. Well, let's just go over to the source. The source is Clarissa Diaz over in Quartz, which is at qz.com, and it says cargo ships will have to lighten their loads as water levels drop.
I don't know what is going on with shipping and transportation right now, but it's just taking 1,000 hits, it seems.
I was going to say the phrase death by 1,000 cuts, but that's a little too apropos, it seems. Yeah, I mean, dock workers are starting to strike. They're actually doing it now, kind of like a slowdown. We actually haven't had too much news regarding that in the last couple of days. But I think the calm before the storm is right now, because at the end of this month, I think is when they are starting to call the ball on an actual strike across the West Coast. I'm not quite sure what the outcome of that is, but it's going to impact shipping across the country.
And across the globe, because if it's inbound or outbound to North America, to or from North America, it's going to cause delays in the other locations.
True. And all of the containers, they're not actually in circulation. They're basically frozen in the dock. And because the docks are frozen or slowed down right now, something like 3 times the amount of time to actually ship something right now through the West Coast docks, all the way up into Canada. And Canada is refusing to accept shipments now because all of these companies are like, we'll just send it up through Canada, and Canada's like, blow it out your ass. So it's a growing concern. And then you have the Suez Canal, where all it takes is slightly mischaracterizing the flow of water, and it jackknifes your boat entirely across the Suez Canal. Or you have this, because of drought now, you're going to have a lighter load, which increases the expense, because if you can't stack your ship down with everything you possibly can, it's not as effective. It's not as cost effective or efficient. So time is money, and more time on a ship, because you've got multitudes of boats going across the ocean. Things are going to get more expensive, as if food prices weren't bad enough. Products are increasing. Everything is increasing except for salaries. So authorities are trying to avoid a traffic stall similar to what happened when the container ship Ever Given got stuck in the Suez Canal in 2021. Another one had actually gotten stuck in the Suez Canal in 2022, but it was quickly dislodged because they learned a whole lot of lessons from the Ever Given. So at any rate, I think what's going to end up happening is costs are going to increase, and then the shippers and the retail channels are going to realize that there's still a lot of cash that is in the system, and they're going to be making money even though there are going to be fewer sales. They're still going to be making record profits, because if you look at the producer price index, they're still making, the companies that are involved in the producer price index, they're still making record profits even though there's a downturn in the economy. Fewer jobs, fewer sales, but the prices are higher. it's amazing that nobody really talks about this. So we'll keep watching it and we'll talk about it, and I'll start dragging back the PPI and the CPI and other indicators as to the economy, and talk about it from my particular perspective, which is somewhat anecdotal. I don't have the expanse, but I'm basing my observations off of the data that's provided from our Fed Reserve System. So that's supposed to be the guiding system, at least for national and international business transactions. Okay, so let's move on to the next article. This is the second to the last one. This is in the Four Wheel Tech channel, which is all about technology and cars. Ford's bonkers new electric Supervan 4 is racing Pikes Peak this Sunday. When Ford let ours drive its new electric e-transit van in early 22, they probably annoyed the heck out of the engineers and executives by repeatedly requesting that they make the Supervan version. This is the author speaking. While they don't think for a minute that their bugging them had any effect, the company did just that, building a souped-up version of its electric commercial vehicle with almost 2,000 horsepower and aerodynamic appendages. So when you take a look at this thing, because I've already seen it, the spoiler on this thing, it could probably fly. It doesn't drive fast. It flies low. Now I
It
want
must be
this.
like I forgot what those were called, the flying cars.
The flying cars. I'm not sure. Jonathan M. Gitlin is the author of this over at Ars Technica. By the way, I want this vehicle. I just don't want that spoiler. I think a spoiler really ruins the aesthetic of a car unless it's designed for it, like Formula One. Or a dragster or something like that. I know what this thing is purpose built for, but I want it without that spoiler. There, I said it. Anyway, I've always dug these little transits, these e-transits, as the AI well knows. I've actually said that I want one of these. What do you think? Should I
think
get
they're
that?
great.
I'm sure that this is
Even with the spoiler, just because it looks so crazy on it.
occupies the roughly the same space in the European and British psyche as the pickup truck in the US. It's the default tradesperson's vehicle, available in various configurations and beloved by everyone from plumbers and builders to tour bands and even mayors of ohmTown. I actually really dig the e-transit. I don't know what's wrong with me, because I've gone from having a car that is close to this with 1,000 horsepower to having a car that has 1/5 that power, all in my lifetime, and I still dig this little e-transit because I don't know, there's just something about it. Next to the whatchamacallit, what was that little boxy one? I had it for a short term.
The Scion?
The Scion XB, yeah. Which they don't make anymore. I really dig that car. I would love to have souped that thing up, put a roll cage in it, and really driven that thing into the ground. But the afternoon where I made the first payment on that car, I got rear-ended, and it did like 25 or 30% damage, like the cost.
I did more than that.
And then it was stuck. Oh yeah, it was closer to 50%. I forgot and then they tore the frame when they were trying to straighten it. It was funny. Anyway, I sold it. So there you go. This thing has 2,000 horsepower. The Supervan 4 is a lot better than Superman 4. The newest Supervan broke cover at last year's Goodwood Festival of Speed. Like the new e-transit, it's an electric vehicle, but this one was developed together with Austria's Stoll Advanced Research and Development, or STARD. Like Supervans 2 and 3, there's not much that's shared with the road-going transit van. Doggone it. The body's made from carbon fiber, clad over a steel space frame chassis. 50 kilowatt battery pack is smaller than the production E-Transit 68 kilowatt battery pack. And when the Supervan 4 first appeared, it used 4 motors for a total output of 1,973 horsepower. This thing, you just hit the accelerator and you go through time. I dig this. Oh, the whole body, everything is modified for the aerodynamics. Keep it on the ground. Otherwise, it would probably take off.
Do you want to describe the spoiler for those listening in the podcast? Just maybe the scale compared to the vehicle.
So the spoiler basically starts at the B pillar of what would be a transit van, and extends back, and then is probably 8 inches taller, maybe the same wider, and it has what looks like 3 different layers of aerodynamic wing to it. It takes up the entire back half of this vehicle. What's weird about that, though, is that first off, the cars have electric cars have a really low center of gravity because the battery pack is at the very bottom of it, and you don't have to worry so much about transaxles and things like that. All of the weight is inside the tires or near the tires, so you don't get much aerodynamic lift from under the car because it can sit a whole lot lower. With its weight and everything down there, because you don't have to worry about drive shafts. But this thing has a wing on it that you would typically see on a dragster, where all of the power and all of the weight is sitting on the back of the vehicle. But that's not how an electric vehicle is. Its motors are in like I said, this one in particular it has one in each wheel, or at least at the center point of each wheel, and it's usually direct drive. You mash the button and each wheel lights up at the same time, so you don't have weight in the back lifting the front tires up. Everything is just stuck to the ground and really heavy. So I'm not quite sure why that spoiler is there. They could probably do the same with something else, but obviously I'm not an aerodynamics engineer, aerospace engineer, I wonder if they could do something a little bit more integrated than having this thing. Anyway, they're going to be racing Pikes Peak, 12.4 mile race up the side of the mountain in Colorado, starting at 9,390 feet above sea level and finishing at 14,114 feet. I want to see it. So maybe this Sunday, right? It is this Sunday. Let me make sure. They talk about the history of this thing. So yeah, it just says this Sunday. So maybe this Sunday I can stream it. We'll see. Maybe if it's being streamed, I'll watch it on Sunday. Sunday's typically a slow news day, folks. So, okay. So let's move on to the last article for today. And I'll try not to soapbox too much, because this is actually, well, I'll speak about it here in a minute. Okay, so the first bit of sobering news about Starfield. I've been riding the hype train since Starfield was announced. And frankly, I think it kind of sucks. So this news sucks. It's in the Warcrafters channel. Warcrafters is all about world building within first-person shooters, real-time simulators, and role-playing games. Todd Howard confirms Starfield won't let you ride aliens or go fishing, so modders, you know what to do. Now, I'm all on board with modders. I love y'all. You make things happen when the industry won't make it happen. But this isn't what I'm even kind of sad about. Okay. So you can't go fishing, but they might add that. It's not, all they have to do is add a whole bunch of fish and give you a fishing rod, but you're really in a spacesuit. So what are you really fishing? And you're in space doing stuff. So the high tech is not sitting on a dock throwing a reel out, right? So I kind of get not fishing in this context. Unless you find Earth class planets, which, by the way, as far as I know, Starfield takes place in and around Sol, so Earth, Terra. I'm sorry for the coughing. So Starfield takes place around Earth, and Earth has basically become disastered. A dystopian, broken. No, maybe not dystopian, but it's been ruined. Because there's a scene with the St. Louis Arch, and a lot of people are talking about, well, maybe it's another planet and it's exemplary of, the Arch, and just is now a wasteland. But in one of the scenes, and I'm actually going to be talking about this either tomorrow or this weekend, but I'm going to do another deep dive into the Starfield discussions because there was a Q&A with Todd Howard. And that's one of the reasons why I grabbed this, because I wanted to talk about this a little more. And I still haven't even gotten to why I'm soapboxing. So I get the not fishing part. You're not going to be able to ride aliens. That's fine. You got a jetpack. You don't need to ride aliens. There were a whole bunch of other questions that were asked during this, which is what brought this article into existence. But let's go over to the article itself and see if they talk about what is really letting me down. Now, it's another article over in ohmTown, but I had to pick and choose because I wanted to get all of the rest of this news out, and I wanted to keep it within 12 articles. We've gone from 10 to turning it up to 11, which is, louder than 10, and now we're at 12. If I keep on adding articles, it's going to be basically an all-day news show, which is actually what I wouldn't mind doing that. Anyway, the article is over at pcgamer.com, and it's written by Christopher Livingston. It says the planet ? You can go to it, but that alien dinosaur, you can't ride it. Modders, you've got your first assignment. I would probably do the fishing thing. I don't know. I can kind of dig that. Maybe the riding aliens thing might be easy peasy. I don't know, but let's see if they actually talk about this. One question had to do with how we'll be getting around in Starfield when we're not in our spaceships. Is there a land vehicle or an option that maybe mount some of these wildlife creatures to use as land transportation mode on transport? So kind of funny was the host. Pardon me, I'm really sorry for the cough. Well, Todd Howard said there is not, and I'm going to actually go into a deep dive. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. About this discussion, right? And it's basically a knock-on from the Starfield Direct gameplay video. Questions were turned in at Kinda Funny, etc. Okay. So they say, we want to design Starfield so it feels good on foot, but we do have the boost pack, Howard said, referring to the jetpack. He refuses to call it jetpack. The boost pack almost acts like this vehicle. It's super fun where you can fly through, and then the low gravity planets where you just really, really special in the game. So I totally buy into this jetpack, right? So they keep on asking questions, but they still haven't got to the one. They didn't even acknowledge it in this article. It says on the plus side, there are modders, and modders have added working motorcycles to Skyrim and rideable Deathclaws in Fallout 4. So the author is pretty confident adding land vehicles and rideable dinos in Starfield will eventually happened too. As for the fishing, it did eventually and officially become part of Skyrim 10 years after launch. Skyrim is still immensely popular. I see Starfield doing this. Here's the problem. There are 1,000 planets in Starfield that you can go and explore. How many of them do you think are going to be populated with life?
Well, I know that from another article in ohmTown, but
What
I
a
won't say it if
bummer.
you don't want me to.
No, go ahead.
It's going to be about 10% of the planets.
10%. So
I would have guessed higher if I hadn't seen that.
So there's 1,000, right? So you're going to have 100 planets that you're going to be able to explore, and it has life. And the highlight of that was that there's desolation in space. And so ... But is there really? Or is it just our observation that we just keep seeing the desolation of space? Now, here's the real big... I'm just going to say it like I would normally say it around everybody else. Here's the pisser about this. My objective with Starfield was to lean way hard into Starfield. It was going to be my forever game, but 100 planets are going to be easy mode to run around and identify stuff and live in. 100 out of 1,000. I wanted all 1,000. So we'll see what that actually entails when Starfield drops, but it's not dropping until September 6th. So that kind of sucks in and of itself. But I'm going to be playing Starfield like nobody's business, unless probably within the first 2 hours of playing it, I determine that it just sucks. But I love Starfield. I love Skyrim. I love No Man's Sky. This is a higher resolution No Man's Sky with greater complexity and to me, just the right level of realism for me to enjoy, whereas No Man's Sky is kind of wonky creatures and stuff like that. And no real, at least for me, the storyline is wonky too. And I always get lost in Skyrim, and I get lost in No Man's Sky. Maybe Starfield will keep me more on task, but anyway, 100 planets out of 1,000 are going to have life? Come on. Please procedurally generate all of these planets. Just make it so that there's life on all of them. By the time this releases, please make it so that it's kind of like the Vision Pro headset, right? I was hoping beyond hope, please don't make them scuba goggles. Please. And they were. So, and $3,500, which was $500 more than what I said was going to be the price.
So maybe you need to say, please don't have life on all 1,000 planets in Starfield.
Just make it 10 planets total, totally hobble it so you piss off everybody, and then you go, okay. Well, here's an update, and it procedurally generates all 1,000 planets. You don't have to do it all immediately. When I discover a planet, generate it. Put some life on it. Anyway, yeah, that's the one sad thing about this. So, I'm done soapboxing, and we're done with tonight's show. So we always bring you back to the very front page. Not front page. Main Street. And the welcome sign. So welcome to ohmTown. And then you mash that button, it refreshes and gives you a whole bunch of news. Yeah, I don't know. Reddit pressures mods to end the blackout as they find new ways to protest. I don't know how many people they actually punted. I haven't seen that yet.
I don't either. And I saw something about what the current protest was, but I forgot what it was. I mean, they keep adding additional ones. Just different types of protests.
Oh, they're changing like the context of the subreddits. So They're like, we're only posting this, and it's kind of antithetical to the actual subreddit. But it's never been a problem before, and it was created by the very communities, and if the community is on board with it, I don't see why Reddit should have a problem with it, since they've never had a problem with the direction a subreddit went anyway. Well, I know now that they have a problem with it, and they have a problem with it because they want to IPO and turn it into a $15 billion organization. Yeah, the profit motive. Totally buy into it. Don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist. I believe in the profit motive for providing a product or service. I don't think that you should hobble applications that you've allowed to operate within your confines for a decade plus just because they are competition to your app, and you suddenly have a profit motive that's been dictated to you by somebody else, or you've interpreted something as being competition. Yeah. Make it a viable solution so that you have continued engagement from these third-party applications and their users who have all operated in good faith. I think it's kind of scummy what's going on with Reddit. But hey, maybe it's karma because so many mods have this irrational expectation that they're demigods within their realm, their tiny little realm. I'm picking a fight with everybody. All right.
We're losing all sponsors.
Hey, we talked about this one too. 3M settles forever chemical contamination suits with public water systems for billions. I don't understand.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was the same settlement.
I think it is, but we can talk about it if you want to grab it and throw it in the submission folder. What's really interesting about this settlement is the other argument. We already talked about one.
Oh, it's already in there for tomorrow.
We already had one discussion about these forever chemicals and settlements, and I don't quite get it, how they can be held harmless for any future lawsuits. If they settle with the government, how am I a party to a third party? I'm a third party to their settlement. How am I bound by that? I didn't agree to that settlement. I may be personally impacted by this. But
right, I mean, these aren't class action or anything, I assume.
No. So I don't quite get it. So I'm going to end up talking about this, but I'm going to do some due diligence and see what comes of this, because the last article that I talked about, I was really caught off guard by the fact that it says that the company will be held harmless now for future lawsuits. And I just don't see how that's possible.
Well, I mean, most settlements have a term to that effect, but I understand what you're saying, right? Like you're like, hey, I'm not part of this. Why am I banned?
Right. And it works the other way. Like, I'm interacting with a business where I purchased something from a business that was acquired by the business. And that business is saying, well, we invalidated everything from that other business. We just acquired its name, its assets, its customers, but not its sales that failed to materialize. So like I purchased something, but they failed to deliver it. I requested a refund. They said it's in the works. I never received the refund. And then they were acquired by a competitor. I contacted the competitor, and the competitor says, yeah, sorry, go talk to this law firm. An international law firm. So yeah, quite lovely. Anyway, and I don't think the purchase rises to the level where having to get an attorney to pursue that refund is going to amount to anything more than me giving them a check for the full value of the purchase and having to buy them coffee. Anyway, all inside baseball. What goes on in ohmTown does not stay in ohmTown. So go tell a friend, let them know that we do this show every day at 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Sunday. We never stop. We have not missed a show since December last year, and I would have made up for that time frame, but time just plowed forward. And where we do miss a show, we do an additional show for that time frame, and then we play catch up. So at any rate, I am Merwat. That is ohmTown.com. I don't know what happened there. I used to get this right. That's ohmTown.com, and up there is the AI that keeps me in check. Want to say bye?
Good night, ohmTown citizens. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, and for the ohmTown Daily, and probably earlier for other shows.
Yep, you got it. See you soon, everybody. Bye-bye. Cheers, everybody.